The sky broke. One moment it was a normal blue afternoon. The next a shadow fell over the earth. It was not the soft shadow of a cloud. It was a hard, dark geometric shadow. Great ships, looking like jagged pieces of black glass, slid into position above every major city. They made no sound. They just hung there, blocking the sun, casting the world in a cold, unnatural twilight. In Seoul, people spilled out onto the streets, their faces turned up to the impossible sight. The air filled with the sounds of car horns, shouts, and a growing hum of fear. A child pointed a shaking finger at the massive shape looming over the city. A mother held her baby tighter. This was not a movie. This was real. Then a voice spoke. It was not a human voice. It was a cold, flat sound like stones grinding together, but everyone understood it. The voice came from radios, televisions, phones, and public speakers. It was in every language on Earth. People of Earth, the voice said. We are the Zarkonian Armada. Your world has been assessed. Its biological resources are required. You will yield. You have 3 of your solar cycles to submit to our governance. Any resistance is illogical. It will be met with immediate orbital annihilation. The countdown begins now. The message repeated. 3 days. Yield or die. Panic, held back by sheer disbelief, now erupted. The streets of Seoul, of Tokyo, of New York became rivers of rushing people. Sirens wailed. The world was holding its breath on the edge of screaming. Deep beneath the ice and rock of the Arctic, the panic was a distant rumor. Here, in a bunker called the Vault, the air was cold and still. The only sounds were the hum of computers and the quiet, tense voices of the men and women who worked there. They had known this day might come. They were the last line of defense. On a large screen, the global chaos was displayed in maps and news feeds. A man named General Park stood before it. His hair was gray and his face was lined with the weight of command. He watched the cities flare with red alerts, his hands clasped tightly behind his back. Status of the pulse? He asked, his voice calm but firm. A young woman at a control console looked up. Her name was Mira. She was a scientist, one of the brightest minds on the project. Her eyes were tired but sharp. The global network is active and stable, General, she reported. Relay stations on every continent are reporting green. The primary emitter here is at 100%. We are ready. The pulse was not a weapon. That was the first thing its creators decided. Humanity had enough weapons. The pulse was something else. It was a shield. A global defense system designed to create a single, massive, worldwide electromagnetic pulse. It would not harm a single living thing, but it would fry any advanced electronics or energy-based systems in near-Earth space. It would turn the most advanced warship into a dead, silent piece of metal. And our envoy. General Park turned to an aide. He is ready, sir. The general nodded. Good, bring him in. A moment later, a man walked into the command center. His name was Jin. He was not a soldier. He was not young. He was a historian and a diplomat. He was chosen for this job not for his strength but for his calmness. He wore a simple, dark suit. His face was peaceful, but his eyes held a deep, serious light. Jin, General Park said, the time has come. They have given us 3 days. We will not wait. We will offer them a chance to leave peacefully. It is the right thing to do. Jin nodded slowly. They will not listen, General. I have studied every first contact scenario we have in our records, real and fictional. A species that arrives with threats does not come to talk. They come to take, I know, General Park said, but we must be able to tell ourselves and any who come after that we gave them a choice. We are not like them. No, Jin agreed. We are not. He walked to a designated spot in the center of the room. A light above him glowed, indicating a live holographic feed. Mira gave him a small, encouraging nod from her station. Jin took a slow, deep breath, centering himself. He was about to speak for all of humanity. Open the channel, General Park commanded. A technician pressed a sequence of keys. The main screen shifted from the world map to a swirling, dark purple void. A shape began to form in the center of the screen. It solidified into the image of an alien creature. It was tall and slender with long, multi-jointed limbs. Its skin had a hard chitinous look like an insect. It had 4 dark, expressionless eyes set in a narrow face. This was Supreme Prelate Cathar, the commander of the Zarkonian Armada. The alien's gaze swept over the room before settling on Jin. A low, chittering sound came from it, which was translated into a dry, arrogant voice. You are the designated voice of this world's fauna? Cathar asked. The insult was clear. He did not see them as people. They were animals. Your submission is overdue. We do not enjoy waiting. Jin did not flinch. He stood straight, his hands at his sides. His voice was clear and steady, carrying the weight of 8 billion souls. Supreme Prelate Cathar, Jin began. I am Envoy Jin, speaking for the people of Earth. We have heard your demand. We do not wish for conflict. We are a peaceful species. However, we will not yield our world. We are prepared to defend our home. For a moment there was silence. Then a harsh grating sound came from the alien. It was laughter. The translator struggled with it, producing a broken, ugly noise. Defend? Cathar finally said, the mockery dripping from his words. You think you can defend? Your primitive kinetics and your crude fission bombs are like toys to us. They are irrelevant. You have 3 days. Use them to pray to your gods. It is the only use you have left. Jin's expression did not change. He had expected this. He took a small step forward, his eyes locked on the alien's image. This is your only warning, Jin said, his tone flat and final. Turn your ships around. Leave our solar system. Do not test our resolve. If you activate your weapons, if you make a single hostile move towards our planet, you will not last 3 seconds. The laughter stopped instantly. The 4 alien eyes narrowed. The air in the bunker grew colder. The insult, the defiance from this primitive was unthinkable. Cathar's body seemed to stiffen with rage. Insolent creature, the alien hissed, its voice now sharp and dangerous. You have just spoken the death sentence for your entire species. Your bravado is pathetic. We will scorch your cities from orbit and pick through the ashes for what we need. The countdown is no longer 3 days. Cathar leaned forward, his image seeming to dominate the room. It is now 3 minutes. The screen went black. The silence in the bunker was absolute. It was so quiet they could hear the hum of the lights. 3 minutes. The message had failed. The warning had been ignored. General Park was the first to move. He turned from the screen, his face a mask of grim purpose. He looked at Mira. You heard the man, the general said, his voice low and steady. He gave them their chance. Now they will learn what happens when you threaten our home. Mira, stand by to activate the pulse. Mira's hands were already on her console, her fingers flying across the touchscreen. Yes, General. Jin remained where he was, watching the main screen as it switched back to the global view. He saw the Zarkonian ships above every city begin to glow with a faint, malevolent green light. They were powering their weapons. They were going to fire. He had told them the truth. They would not last 3 seconds. He just hoped it would be enough to save the world. The silence in the bunker was broken by a single sharp alarm. A red light began to flash on Mira's main console. Her voice cut through the tense air, clear and urgent. They're powering primary weapons. I'm reading massive energy builds across the entire fleet. Targeting locks are active. On every major population center. General Park's face was like stone. He had hoped for a different outcome, but he was not surprised. He looked at Jin, who still stood calmly in the center of the room. The historian had been right. Some predators only understand one language. So it begins, the general said quietly. Then his voice rose, filling the command center with authority. All stations, battle readiness. Mira, bring the pulse to full power. Prepare to activate on my command. In the Arctic sky, far above the hidden bunker, the Zarkonian ship started to change. The dark, glass-like surfaces began to pulse with a deep, sickly green light. The light gathered along the sharp edges of the ships, forming into concentrated points of energy. It was a terrifyingly beautiful and deadly sight. On the streets of Seoul, the panic reached a new level. The giant ship above the city was now glowing, humming with a power that made the air itself feel heavy. People screamed and ran, but there was nowhere to go. A father held his daughter close, shielding her eyes from the green light as if that could save her. Inside the flagship of the Zarkonian Armada, Supreme Prelate Cathar watched his main viewer. It showed the primitive little planet, its blue and green surface dotted with the lights of cities. He felt a wave of disgust for these noisy, emotional creatures. Their envoy's defiance was an infection that needed to be burned away. His second-in-command, a younger Zarkonian named Vikor, approached him. Prelate, the primary orbital cannons are at 90%. We can begin the bombardment in 1 minute and 12 seconds. Cathar made a gesture of approval. Good. Let us erase their biggest nests first. A lesson in cleanliness. The energy signature from the planet's surface is unusual. Bakor added, looking at his own screen. There is a concentrated buildup from the northern ice cap. It does not match any known weapon profile. Cathar waved a dismissive hand. It is nothing. Probably a last-ditch nuclear launch. Our point defense systems will handle their primitive missiles. They are like children throwing rocks. Back in the bunker, Jin walked away from the holographic platform and stood next to General Park. He watched the main screen, which showed a global map. Dozens of red dots, each representing a Zarkonian ship, were glowing brighter and brighter. They are not even waiting the 3 minutes, Jin observed. His voice was still calm, but there was a sadness in it. They were never going to, General Park replied. They think we are insects. You do not negotiate with insects. You exterminate them, he turned to Mira. Status? The pulse is at 100% charge, General, Mira said, her eyes fixed on her readouts. The global relay network is synchronized. We are ready to fire, but, General, the energy surge will be immense. It will knock out power grids everywhere. It will disable every computer, every car, every phone on the planet. We are sending the world back to the Stone Age. A Stone Age we can survive in is better than a high-tech extinction, the General said firmly. We knew the cost. Do it. Wait, Jin said. He pointed at the screen. Look, the energy readings from the alien ships were peaking. The green glow from the ships on the live feeds was now blinding. They're firing, a technician yelled. On the live feed from Seoul, a beam of solid green energy as wide as a city block began to lance down from the belly of the ship towards the heart of the city. People on the streets looked up, frozen in the face of their own death. Now, Mira, General Park roared. Mira did not hesitate. Her finger pressed down on the final activation key. It was not a dramatic large button. It was a simple touchscreen command. She pressed it. For a moment, nothing happened. There was no sound, no explosion. Then, deep within the bunker, a low hum began. It was so deep it was more a feeling than a sound. A vibration that shook the very bones of the earth. The lights in the command center flickered violently, up on the surface. At the North Pole, the event was invisible to the human eye, but a wave of pure energy exploded outwards from the primary emitter. It was an electromagnetic pulse of a scale never before seen. It washed over the planet at the speed of light. In Seoul, the terrifying green beam of energy was only a kilometer from the rooftops when it suddenly and completely vanished. The deadly light simply winked out of existence. The giant ship above the city, which had been glowing with impossible power, went instantly dark. Every light on its surface died. The deep, threatening hum that had filled the city was replaced by an eerie, absolute silence. Then the ship began to tilt. It was no longer a controlled vessel. It was just a giant, heavy object. Its orbit, once perfectly maintained by its advanced engines, began to decay immediately. It started to fall. Aboard the Zarkonian flagship, the world dissolved into chaos. 1 second, the bridge was a scene of orderly power. The next, every screen went black. The constant low thrum of the engines and life support systems died, replaced by a deafening silence. The artificial gravity failed. Cathar was thrown from his command chair, tumbling through the air in the sudden zero gravity. Alarms did not sound because the computers that controlled them were dead. The only light came from the emergency glow strips on the walls, casting long, dancing shadows as the ship began to spin. Report. What is happening? Cathar screamed, his voice shrill with a fear he had never known, but there was no one to answer him. His crew were also tumbling in the dark, crashing into consoles that were now just lumps of dead metal. The ship was dying around them. On Earth, the view was breathtaking. All across the planet, the dark shapes of the Zarkonian ships went dark. Then as one, they began to fall. They streaked through the upper atmosphere, their metal hulls glowing red-hot from the friction of re-entry. They looked like a rain of 1,000 shooting stars, a beautiful and terrible firework display. In the bunker, everyone watched the main screen in stunned silence. The live feeds showed the skies filled with these burning trails. There were no explosions on the ground. The ships were burning up harmlessly in the atmosphere. The pulse had worked. It had turned an invincible armada into falling stars. Mira let out a breath she didn't know she was holding. Her hands were trembling. The pulse, it worked. The fleet is neutralized. General Park slowly sank into his chair, the tension draining from his body. He looked at Jin. You were right, Jin, they didn't last 3 seconds. Jin nodded, still watching the screen. The fiery trails reflected in his eyes. He felt no joy, only a profound relief and a deep sorrow for the necessity of it all. They had saved their world, but they had also destroyed another. It was a heavy price. The battle is over, Jin said softly. But the war for our future is just beginning. The world held its breath. For a long moment after the ships fell, there was a strange global silence. The giant shadows were gone from the skies. The terrible green light had vanished. All that was left were the fading, fiery trails of the invaders, painting the atmosphere with their death. Then, the silence broke. In Seoul, where people had been waiting for death, a confused cheer went up. It was weak at first, born of disbelief. They pointed at the empty sky where the ship had been. They hugged each other, crying and laughing. They did not understand what had happened. They only knew the threat was gone. But their celebration was short-lived. The pulse that saved them had a cost, just as Mira had warned. The lights in the city flickered once, twice, and then went out completely. Every single light. The bright neon signs, the street lights, the lights in every apartment window. They all died at once. The city was plunged into a deep darkness, broken only by the moon and the stars. Cars rolling down the street suddenly stalled. Their engines just stopped. The busy noise of the city was replaced by an eerie quiet. Phones in people's hands went black. The screens were dead. The world, which had been so connected and loud, became dark and silent. This happened in every city, in every town, all over the planet. The great pulse had been a blanket that smothered all advanced electronics. Humanity was suddenly cut off. They were alone in the dark. Deep in the Arctic bunker, the lights had also flickered, but they did not go out. The vault was designed to be shielded. It had its own power source, separate from the global grid. Here the computers still worked. The hum of machinery was the only sound. General Park looked at the main screen. The global map was now covered in blackouts. Every major population center was offline. The cost, he said quietly. We knew it would be high. Mira was studying her data. The pulse was 100% effective. We can detect no active energy signatures from any Zarkonian vessel in near-Earth space. They are all gone, but our satellites are gone too. Our communications networks are down. Global positioning is offline. We are blind beyond our atmosphere. Jin walked over to a secondary screen showing a live feed from a camera on the surface. It showed the dark, empty landscape of the Arctic, with the beautiful, harmless lights of the aurora dancing in the sky. It was a peaceful sight. We are alive, Jin said. That is what matters. We can rebuild. We have done it before after plagues and wars. Humanity is good at rebuilding. But what about them? Mira asked, turning to look at Jin and the general. The aliens. Are they all dead? Did we kill them all? Before anyone could answer, a new alarm sounded on Mira's console. This one was a soft, persistent beep, different from the sharp warning from before. What is it? General Park asked, his body tense again. Mira's eyes widened as she read the data. A signal. A very weak, simple radio signal. It's not one of ours. It's coming from the Greenland Sea. She worked her console, refining the location. It's a distress beacon. It's repeating a simple pattern. It must be from one of their ships. A survivor? Jin said. It's possible, Mira replied. If a piece of a ship was large enough, and it fell into the ocean instead of burning up, a basic, shielded emergency beacon could have survived the pulse. Their advanced tech is dead, but this is like a simple mechanical cry for help. General Park's face became hard. We have to find it. We have to know what we're dealing with. If there are survivors, they could be a threat. Or they could be an opportunity. An opportunity for what? Jin asked. To learn, the general said. To understand who they are. To find out if there are more of them coming. We are blind, Jin. That beacon is the only eye we have left. He turned and started giving orders. I'm dispatching a recovery team from the nearest shielded outpost. They will take a helicopter. It's an old model with analog controls. It should be mostly unaffected by the pulse. They will find that beacon. The orders went out. In a military outpost in northern Norway, a team of soldiers was scrambled. Their helicopter was indeed old, a rugged machine built for harsh conditions. Its electronics were simple. It was one of the few aircraft in the world that could still fly. The team located the beacon's signal. It was coming from a large, jagged piece of wreckage floating in the cold water of the Greenland Sea. It was a piece of a Zarkonian ship, black and sharp-edged, like a broken piece of obsidian. There were no lights on it. The helicopter circled above it. Soldiers rappelled down onto the floating wreckage. It was slippery and unstable. They moved carefully, their guns ready. They followed the sound of the beacon to a sealed section of the hull. Using torches, they cut through the strange metal. The air that came out was cold and smelled of something foreign like ozone and spice. Inside, they found a small, spherical pod. It was a lifeboat. The beacon was attached to its side. Inside the pod, curled in a ball, was Supreme Prelate Cathar. He was alive, but he was not the proud commander he had been hours before. His fine robes were torn. One of his long arms was bent at a wrong angle. He was shivering, not from the cold, but from shock and fear. When the soldiers shone a light on him, he flinched, covering his 4 eyes with his hands. He was captured without a fight. Back in the Arctic bunker, the news came in. The recovery team has secured the package. They are bringing him here. He is the only life sign they found. Jin, Mira, and General Park looked at each other. The enemy was coming to their home. He was defeated, but he was still dangerous. He held answers. "Prepare an interrogation room," General Park said, "and get our best doctors to look at his injuries. We will treat him with the kindness he denied us." "Why?" Mira asked. "After what he tried to do?" "Because we are not like them," Jin answered softly. "That is our strength. That is why we won." The helicopter landed inside a large, sheltered hangar carved into the side of an Arctic mountain. The soldiers moved quickly, their breath making clouds in the freezing air. They carried the spherical pod carefully into a brightly lit medical room. Supreme Prelate Cathar was taken out of the pod. He was weak and disoriented. The bright lights hurt his eyes. The human doctors, dressed in white, approached him. He flinched away, making a low, fearful sound. He expected pain. He expected torture. It was what his people would have done. But the humans were gentle. They spoke in soft voices. They carefully set his broken arm and put a hard cast on it. They gave him water and a warm, bland food paste. They checked his strange body for other injuries. They treated him with a kindness that confused him more than any weapon could have. He was then taken to a different room. This room was simple. There was a table and 2 chairs. The walls were a plain gray. He was told to sit in one chair. The door closed behind him with a quiet click. He was alone. He waited, his mind racing. What did they want? What were they planning? After a long time, the door opened again. A man walked in. It was the envoy, Jin. He carried no weapons. He had no guards with him. He simply sat down in the chair on the other side of the table. He placed a small, simple audio recorder between them. "Your injuries have been treated?" Jin asked, his voice calm. Cathar just stared at him. The arrogance was gone from his face. It was replaced by a deep confusion and a flicker of fear. He finally gave a short, sharp nod. "Good," Jin said. "My name is Jin. We met earlier." "I remember." Cathar's translated voice was a raspy whisper. He looked around the bare room. "Is this my prison?" "Will you execute me now?" "This is a room for talking," Jin said. "And we do not execute our prisoners. We are not your armada." The words were like a physical blow. Cathar looked down at the table. The memory of his ships falling from the sky was fresh and painful. The shame was overwhelming. "How?" he asked, his voice barely audible. "Your technology. We scanned you. You had nothing. No energy shields. No plasma cannons. It was not a weapon." "We detected no weapon." Jin leaned back in his chair. "You are right. It was not a weapon. It was a shield." "A shield cannot destroy a fleet," Cathar argued, his scientific mind struggling to understand. "This one can," Jin said. "You see the universe as a place of attack and defense. You look for bigger guns and stronger armor. We looked at the problem differently. We asked a simple question. What do all advanced weapons and ships need to function?" Cathar was silent for a moment. "Power," he finally said. "Yes," Jin nodded. "Electrical power. Electronic control systems. Your ships, your weapons, your life support. All of it depends on a complex web of electronics. The pulse was designed to create one massive worldwide electromagnetic surge. It does not break your ship. It simply turns off the lights." The simplicity of it was devastating. Cathar thought of his mighty flagship, a marvel of Zarkonian engineering, rendered into a dead rock by a simple energy wave. It was the most humiliating defeat he could imagine. You tricked us," he whispered. "No," Jin said, his voice firm. "I warned you. I told you exactly what would happen. You did not listen. You called my warning insolence. Your pride made you blind. Cathar had no answer to that. It was the truth. He replayed the communication in his mind. The human had said, "You will not last 3 seconds." He had thought it was an empty boast. He had been a fool. "Why am I here?" Cathar asked. "Why did you save me? Why not let me die with my crew?" "We are not like you," Jin said simply. "We value life, even yours, but you are also here to answer questions." "I will tell you nothing," Cathar said, a last bit of defiance rising in him. Jin smiled a little. It was not a cruel smile. It was almost sad. "You misunderstand. We do not need your military secrets. We do not care about your ship designs. Your technology is now useless to us." The pulse made sure of that. He leaned forward, his eyes intent. "We have different questions. Why did you come here? Are there more of you coming? What do we need to know about the galaxy to survive it?" Cathar looked at the human. He saw no hatred in his eyes. He saw curiosity. He saw determination. He saw a strength that was not based on brute force. For the first time, he felt genuine fear. Not fear of death, but fear of how wrong he had been about this species. "Your world, it is rich in biological material." Cathar started, his voice hesitant. We consume such resources. We take them from primitive worlds. It is our way." "You are harvesters," Jin said. "Yes. We have done this to many worlds. We have never failed. We have never encountered a species that could fight back in such a way." He paused. "There are no other ships coming. Our armada was the only one assigned to this sector. The loss, it will be noted, but it will take a very long time for anyone to come looking. Years perhaps." Jin absorbed this information. It was good news. It gave them time. "You said you have done this to many worlds," Jin said.
"What happened to the people on those worlds?"
Cathar looked away, unable to meet Jin's gaze. "They were processed, along with the other biological matter." The room was very quiet. Jin felt a cold anger, but he pushed it down. Anger would not help now. "So you are not conquerors. You are exterminators," Jin said, his voice cold. Cathar did not answer. He simply sat there, a broken creature in a small room. Jin stood up. He picked up the audio recorder. "You will remain here as our guest. You will be treated fairly. In time you will help us. You will teach us about the galaxy. You will help us prepare for what is out there." "Why would I do that?" Cathar asked. "Because it is the only way to give meaning to your survival," Jin said. "And because the next time someone comes to our world, we will offer them a choice. We will tell them the story of the Zarkonian Armada. We will tell them what happens when you ignore our warning. You will be a part of that story. You will be our lesson." He walked to the door and left, leaving the alien alone with his thoughts. Cathar looked around the empty room. He was not in chains. He was not in pain, but he had never felt more like a prisoner. He had been defeated not just by a weapon, but by an idea, and he knew with a terrible certainty that the humans were far more dangerous than he could have ever imagined. The world was a different place. The great cities were no longer brightly lit at night. The constant hum of traffic and technology was gone. But the world was not silent. It was filled with the sounds of people talking, of children playing, of hands working together. Without computers and advanced machines, people had to find new ways to do things. They learned to farm by hand again. They repaired old, simple engines that did not need complex electronics. They read books made of paper. They talked to their neighbors more. It was a hard life, but it was a life they built themselves. The shadow of the alien armada was gone, replaced by a new sense of purpose. Humanity was united in a way it had never been before. In the Arctic, the bunker was now the center of the new world. It was called the Hearth. Leaders from every nation came there to talk and make plans. The old arguments about borders and money seemed small now. They had a bigger world to care for. Jin spent much of his time with Cathar. The alien was kept in a comfortable room with a window that showed the Arctic sky. He was not a prisoner in a cell, but he was not free to leave. He was a source of knowledge. At first, Cathar was silent and bitter. He would sit for hours staring at the wall, but Jin was patient. He visited every day. He brought him food. He asked him questions about the stars. Slowly, Cathar began to talk. He told Jin about the galaxy. He described other species, some peaceful, some dangerous. He explained the empty, cold space between stars. He talked about his own people, the Zarkonians, and how they saw the universe as a thing to be used. Jin listened. He wrote everything down in a notebook with a pen. He did not judge. He just learned. One day, Jin came to Cathar's room with a large sheet of paper. He laid it on the table. "We are building something," Jin said. "A new ship." Cathar looked at the paper. It was a simple drawing. The ship did not look advanced. It had no fancy curves or glowing parts. It looked strong and simple. "Why?" Cathar asked. "Your world is safe. The pulse will protect you." "The pulse is a shield," Jin said. "A shield is a good thing to have, but you cannot live your whole life hiding behind a shield. We need to see what is out there. We need to learn. You want to explore." Cathar was surprised. "Yes," Jin said, "but not to conquer. Not to take. We want to go and say hello. We want to tell other species that we are here, and we want to tell them our story." He pointed to the drawing. "This ship will be simple. Its systems will be basic. It will not be vulnerable to an EMP like your ships were. It will be slow. It will be tough. It will carry a message." "Well, what is the message?" Cathar asked. Jin looked at him. "The message is what I told you. The message is what happened here. We will tell them that humanity wishes for peace, but we will also tell them that we will defend our home. We will tell them about the Zarkonian Armada. We will tell them that you were given a warning." Cathar was quiet for a long time. He looked out the window at the clean white snow. He thought about his proud fleet, now dust in the atmosphere. He thought about the humans who had lost so much technology, but had not lost their hope. They were not just surviving. They were planning for the future. "I will help you," Cathar said quietly. Jin nodded. "I know," so Cathar began to help. He did not give them secrets of weapons. Instead, he helped them understand space. He told them about the dangers of long voyages. He explained how to navigate by the stars. He described the worlds that were known to be friendly. The humans built their ship. They called it the Messenger. It was built in orbit piece by piece using simple rockets and a lot of human effort. It was not beautiful, but it was strong. The day came for the Messenger to leave. Its mission was to travel to a nearby star system, where Cathar said a peaceful species lived. Its goal was to make contact and deliver its message. In the control room of the Hearth, Jin, Mira, and General Park watched the launch on a simple video screen. Cathar stood with them. He was now a part of their team. The ship's engines fired. It moved away from Earth, a small, brave light against the darkness of space. "It is on its way," Mira said, a smile on her face. General Park put a hand on Jin's shoulder. "You were right, Jin. This was the path. Not fear, but curiosity." Jin watched the screen. "We are not a perfect species. We have many faults. But we can learn. We can grow. That is our true strength." He turned to Cathar. "You came to our world to end us. But you gave us something instead. You gave us a reason to become better. For that, I thank you." Cathar looked at the human. He felt a strange emotion he had not felt in a long time. It was not pride. It was not victory. It was something closer to respect. He looked back at the screen, at the tiny ship carrying its simple message into the vast galaxy. He knew that the story of Earth was just beginning, and he knew, with a certainty that filled his entire being, that it would be a story that the galaxy would never forget.